सबसे पहले हमारे पास जो आ रहे हैं मुख्य वक्ता के रूप में वो है हरिनाथ। उन्हें 8 साल का वर्क एक्सपीरियंस है। अलग अलग कॉर्पोरेट कंपनीज में उन्होंने काम किया है। वे एमबीए हैं, एचआर हैं, मार्केटिंग में, और साथ ही उन्होंने प्रिनो प्रियोन बिजनेस सर्विस प्राइवेट लिमिटेड के लिए काम किया है सेल्स लीड की तरह। और वो आनंदा लॉ से संबंधित है, और बचपन से ही वो थियोसॉफी की ओर उनका झुकाव रहा है, क्योंकि वो श्री श्री अरविंदो विद्या केंद्रम में पढ़े हैं। तो ऐसे हमारे एकदम युवा साथी हरिनाथ का मैं स्वागत करता हूँ और कहता हूँ कि वे अपना विषय आगे बढ़ाएं। धन्यवाद।
So it's a good evening for one and all. I think I'm clearly audible and visible. Can anyone confirm? Yes, thanks. So today, first of all, I would like to say we have taken a challenging task, like to explain this, which is not easy to explain, which is unexplainable, I can say. But let me try to explain in sound. So first of all, if we see the title, silence and sound, the moment I said silence and sound, there is duality, right? So when there is duality, there will be conflict, right, between this and that. So between this and that, choices exist. When there is a choice, definitely there is a conflict. And when there is a conflict, definitely there will be no truth. So, but if we observe with our absolute mind or soul, the truth is sound is silence. So how sound is silence? Let's go further. I have taken reference from the Voice of Silence, the book written by Madam H.P. Blavatsky. So in that, she explained like, he who would hear the voice of nada in the sense, the soundless sound, and comprehend it, who can understand it, he has to learn the nature of dharana. So what is dharana? Dharana is the intense and perfect concentration of the mind upon some interior object, accompanied by complete abstraction from everything pertaining to external universe or the world of senses. So having become indifferent to the objects of perception, the student must seek out the Raja of senses, the thought producer, he who awakes illusion. Here we have to observe like the mind is the greatest slayer of the real. Let the disciple slay the slayer, never fall into illusions. So if you observe, she tried to explain a soundless sound. So how can we understand a soundless sound? We all know that sound means which is vibrating, which when there is two entities only sound produce, right? We can produce only sound by two hands, not with only one hand. So when there is choices, when there is duality, then only we will understand the sound. We will get to know about the sound. If everything is one, the sound becomes a soundless sound. When there is no duality, then I call it as a soundless sound. So to understand the soundless sound, she explained in terms of we have to inculcate the habit of dharana, which is nothing but an intense and perfect concentration of mind upon the interior object, not the exterior object. So when he has ceased to hear the many, he may find out the one, the inner sound, which kills the outer. Then only, not till then, he shall forsake the region of Asat, the false, to come unto the realm of Sat, the true. Before the soul can comprehend or understand and may remember it, it must unto the silent speaker be united, just as the form to which the clay is modeled is first united with the potter's mind. So, for then the soul will hear and will remember, and then to the inner ear will speak. So when she tried to explain, like when we cease to hear the many, like the outer sounds, when we cease to hear the outer sounds, we will automatically get into an inner sound. If you observe it with your soul, you will get to know that inner sound. Right? That is, the inner sound is such, that is true. Whereas the outer sound is such, it is false. She tried to explain in that sense. So for them the soul will hear and will remember, and then to the inner ear will speak. Saith the great law, in order to become the knower of all self, thou has first of the self to be the knower. To reach the knowledge of that self, thou has to give up self to non-self, being to non-being, and then thou can repose or rest between the wings of a great bird or the god. I sweet is the rest between the wings of that which is not born nor dies, but is home throughout the eternal ages. So if we see this, she has given a very vivid picture about how to feel that inner sound. If we want to hear that inner sound, first of all, we should be like a clay that is modeled and is united with the potter's mind. So the example she has given reveals the picture, like if we want to hear the inner sound, first of all, we have to model, or we have to cooperate with the inner silent speaker. Then only you will be able to hear it. If we want to hear the inner sound, first of all, we have to cease the outer sound. Then only we will get to know about the inner sound. So, she has given a line that is, sweet is rest between the wings of that which is not born nor dies. That is, but is Om throughout the eternal ages. The word Om, or the Akshara, the Om, is not born. It is, and it won't die, according to her. Yeah. So the three halls, O very pilgrim, led to the end of toils or extremely hard difficulties. Three halls, O conqueror of Mara, will bring thee through three states, into the fourth, and hence into the seven worlds, the worlds of rest eternal. Thou would learn their names, then hear and remember. The name of first hall is ignorance, avidya. It is the hall in which thou saw the light, in which thou livest and shall die. So according to her, the first hall is ignorance. Every human being will go through this hall, that is avidya. What exactly she is trying to tell here is about what is that ignorance. We all believe like the survival process is the only thing we should have to take care of. People will fall into the illusion of the survival process, right? So they think that is the only life to survive, is the only life they thought. So we need to come out of that ignorance. And when you come out of that ignorance, you will start into the second hall. The name of the second hall of learning, in it, thy soul will find the blossoms of life. But under every flower is serpent coiled. So the second hall is about learning. First, the human being cross the first hall of ignorance, then he starts learning. What exactly here we have to think about that learning? So it is nothing but we, after come out of ignorance, we try to accumulate knowledge. Every human being try to accumulate more knowledge, which is okay for some extent, but knowledge to gathering information is not at all gives you 100% satisfaction in her perception. So if you accumulate more knowledge, you will not able to see the truth, because knowledge will become a stopper for you to go through the truth. So the name of the third hall is wisdom, beyond which stretches the shoreless waters of Akshara, the indestructible fount of omniscience. So we all know that what Akshara means. Akshara is a Sanskrit word which is nothing but imperishable. So the indestructible fount of omniscience, the region of full spiritual consciousness, beyond which there is no longer danger for him who has reached it. When the person has reached third hall, that is wisdom, he is now free to know about the truth. He is now free. He can observe the truth. He can understand or comprehend about the truth. Until unless if he is not crossing the first two halls and enter into the third hall, he will never able to see the truth. Here the truth is not in terms of silence. If thou would not cross the first hall safely, let not thy mind mistake the fires of lust that burn therein for the sunlight of life. If thou wouldn't cross the second hall safely, stop not the fragrance of its stupefying blossoms to inhale. If freed thou would be from the karmic chains, seek not for thy guru in those Mayavic regions. The wise ones tarry, stay longer, not in pleasure grounds of senses. The wise ones heed or pay careful attention not to the sweet-tongued voices of illusions. So the wise one never stays in the grounds of pleasure. The wise one never seeks or never be um, what we can say, like he cannot never be get into the maya of the sweet tongue voices of illusion. So seek for him who is to give thee birth is the hall of wisdom, the hall which lies beyond, wherein all shadows are unknown and where the light of truth shines with unfading glory. So she has given a wonderful explanation about like how to find out the truth or how to find out silence, absolute silence. We need to cross the first two halls and we need to go to the third hall, which is nothing but wisdom. Until unless a person who has not go into the path of wisdom, he will never find out what exactly the soundless sound is or the silence is. When there is duality or when there is no wisdom, a person cannot able to find out what exactly the silence is or the truth is. So, Madame Blavatsky looked upon sound as the effect produced by the vibration of either. The impulses communicated to either by different planets may be linked to the tones produced by different notes of a musical instrument. So, if we see, she has explained in a beautiful format, like how to hear the inner sound, how to hear that a soundless sound. There, she has given a beautiful process, I can say. Like, we have to eradicate the ignorance part, then you will enter into the learning part. Every human being learns and he accumulates a lot of information or knowledge, and whatever you see, you will see through the knowledge. When you are using your knowledge to see the truth, definitely you will not able to see the truth. If you want to see the truth or silence, we should be in the state of nirvana, or we should negate the knowledge that we have accumulated. Until unless nobody can able to see what truth is or what silence is. If you want to go into that path, first of all, we should be like a clay that is modeled and is first united with the potter's mind. Nothing but we should be united with the inner speaker. So let's continue the second part. I think this part will give you more entertainment, or like it will make you more feel with this, because I always love JK. So like his words are like bullets, I can say. It will go directly into your mind. So what JK has said about this sound, or what are his views? Let's discuss about. So first of all, he wants to ask a question like, can thought be silent? As long as thought is functioning, it is a movement, and which is moving, it creates noise. Movement is noisy. So the silence is a background of sound. For suppose you are seeing my picture with the background. If there is no background, if you can see this hand like this, right? Only because of the background. If I keep like this, if I close the background, can you see my hand? You can't see this. In the same way, silence is the background of sound. We have to understand this. We cannot hear sound without the background of silence. So what exactly the silence is? Have you ever questioned yourself like what exactly the silence is? Is it the silence between the inhale and the exhale, the breathing? Or it is the silence between two thoughts? When you observe your thoughts, one thought overlaps the other, and one thought compresses, one thought dominates, or one thought conflicts with the other thoughts. Is it the silence between two thoughts? Is that the silence? He is asking. Is it the silence between two sounds? So if you observe these all things, there is an interval between all these parts. Right? If you observe deeply the interval between these all things, you can understand to some extent what exactly the silence is. To some extent, not completely. The whole universe is in movement, right? The earth moves, even the place where we stand right now, it is also moving. In science, we call it as tectonic shift. And where there is a movement, there is sound. When there is no movement, there will be no sound. Even recently, the NASA has discovered the sound of sun and some other planets. Each and every particle in this universe has its own vibration, has its own sound. And JK always asks, when you are familiar with his speeches, he always used to ask one thing like, can you hear the sound of a tree? People feel like wondering like, what exactly is a tree has a sound? It feels like scary for us, one person sometimes. Sound in the sense, it is not the sound of the breeze where leaves and branches produces, but actually there is a sound inside the tree. Don't think the sound that is producing by the branches or the leaves when हवा इस तरफ पे आएगा ना, वो नहीं है. There is an internal sound. To understand or to produce that sound, the drum should be empty. When the drum is empty, out of that emptiness, it creates sound. As we said, with the background of silence, we can only see the sound. So if we observe, how can we think about this silence? How this new thing is coming into picture? Where does new come from? How can we find out this silence? How can we able to pursue? Because human beings are not able to pursue all the sounds. We can only pursue to some extent. So how can we pursue how new is coming, where this new is coming from? New in the sense here, a silence. If we observe a new invention or a new perception, there must be not only knowledge, but there must be an interval. We had just now discussed the interval, what exactly the interval between the two inhale and exhale, or the interval between the two thoughts, or the interval between two sounds. So there must be an interval between old and the new. The old must be totally in abeyance. The new does not born out of old. Here we have to pay some attention, like the old, the new does not born from the out of old. New is there. It is being. It's not came from some other entity. The old must be completely quiet. Then only you will find or you will be able to see the new. When you say new, what is meant by that word? It's a word, right? Is the name, the river, Godavari river. The river is not the name. Is water you are watching is new water? It's not a new water, right? It is always in a constant movement. A constant movement of water is going on. And we feel it is a new water. Here we have to observe the illusion that is creating by your thought. We always try to find something new, not only in technological world, but also in ourselves. Every day we always try to find out new in myself or in ourselves. We always try to be new because that is the nature of human mind. And if you find something new, then the me uses the new, and in using it, it becomes powerful. It becomes popular. Or suppose if you invent a new thing like silence is the everything, not the sound. Based on that, a lot of popular figures are arising. If you observe in the YouTube videos, nowadays I had seen a lot of YouTube videos about this silence and sound. So many people had invented something like there is inner sound. If you put your earplugs, then you will listen that sound. That is the exact sound. So these are all things people are becoming popular by finding out new things. And when you find out a new thing, the me, the self, uses that new and become powerful and popular. And me that discovers new become mischievous entity. To find out absolute silence and new, the me or the self must be totally absent. When there is self, when there is me, you can't able to find out what is silence. To know what exactly the silence is, the me should be absent. The self should be absent. The new is total goodness. So be still. What be still? We are examining only what is actually taking place or in front of your eyes. And to observe what is taking place, the mind must be free from the past. This is what always JK used to tell, like freedom from the known, freedom from the past. We should not be conditioned. When you are conditioned, or when you have accumulated, or when you are seeing things from the past, or from the images, or from the words, you are not able to find out what exactly the truth is. So we are examining only what is actually taking place, and to observe what is actually taking place, the mind must be free from the past, and that is intelligence. A stable mind, if you observe, is silent. Clarity is stability. When it is in confusion or doubtful, it cannot be stable. It creates illusion. So if you have clarity about what you are seeing, what you are speaking, what you are thinking, you will have attain some stability, and that out of that stability, you will be able to feel that silence. Until unless you are not able to, until unless you are not free from the illusions, you are not able to, you cannot be stable. If it is absolute clear, when you are absolutely clear or stable, you will become immovable, just like a rock in the midst of a river. Here we need to understand what exactly is stillness, because there is a stillness created by thought. Thoughts say, I must be quiet, I must be still. That is not stillness. When thought interferes, you are not seeing the actual thing. You are in illusion. When thought says you should be quiet, generally, if you observe a lot of people, when they are meditating, they always try to force themselves to meditate, because in order to be quiet, of course, when they are doing meditation, their body will remain quiet. But if you observe, the mind is always thinking. The thought processes goes on and on, on and on, on and on. So that is not meditation. Meditation is nothing but the mind should be completely blank. The mind should be completely stable, immovable. Then only that is real meditation. When you are absolutely silent, you can be able to see the eternal, timeless, or the nameless, extra. So this is about JK's views. Let me discuss some general views. We have different kinds of perception, like how this creation has happened. Some feels like it happened out of silence, and some feels like it happened out of sound. The West people think like the Western people thinks it happened out of sound, and the East thinks it happened from the silence, whatever the thing. So even the Big Bang theory, if you see, the Edwin Hubble in 1920 provided evidence that universe is expanding. The Big Bang theory considers the following stages: beginning of all matter, forming the universe existed in one place in the form of a tiny ball. At Big Bang, the tiny ball exploded violently. This led to huge expansion. It is now generally accepted that the event of Big Bang took place 13.7 billion years before present. So what exactly the scientists also discovered is this universe has been happened out of sound, the Big Bang. So keeping aside these things, we should have to think from our inner, like what how this creation happened, how this nature, or how all these nature come into our picture, come into living, come into being. If you ask that question for yourselves, your mind will become for some time it will become silent, because it don't have any answers for that. Certain things we are not able to explain, certain things we can't explain, we can't pursue with our senses. When you are pursuing with your five senses, definitely you can't pursue all the nature. To understand the complete universe, there should be some other sense. They call it sixth sense. So only the acoustic waves that have frequencies lying between 20 hertz and 20 kilohertz, the audio frequency range, elicit an auditory perception in humans. So here there is a beautiful line, like if a tree falls in the forest with no one to hear it, does it make sound? So the question is looks simple, but there is a complexity lies in that question. Like, of course, we are not able to hear the sound of the tree that has fallen in the forest, but the tree is there. The forest is real. It has fallen is real. Only thing is you are not able to perceive the sound. But everything is there. Only thing is you are not able to perceive. There is some creator, there is some silence. Only thing is you are not able to pursue, because we are always seeing the things from our five senses. When you use your sixth sense, maybe you can be able to hear that silence. You can be able to hear that inner sound. So in Christianity, there is a silence of contemplative prayer. They contemplative prayer in the sense they choose a word, hallelujah or something. This is the word called sacred word, should represent your intention to consent to God's presence and action within you. We in all religions it is there, the contemplative prayer, such as centering prayer and Christian meditation. In Islam, there are wisdom's writings of Sufis who insist on importance of finding silence within. In Buddhism, the descriptions of silence and allowing the mind to become silent are implied as a feature of spiritual enlightenment. In Hinduism, including the teachings of Advaita Vedanta and many paths of yoga, teachers insist on the importance of silence, mauna, for inner growth. A beautiful line by Ramana Maharshi, a revered Hindu, said, the only language able to express the whole truth is silence. If you ask me what is truth, if I said something about it, that is not truth. Because I can't explain truth. When I started to explain it, the moment I started to explain it, I'm lying. The only language able to express the whole truth is only silence. We can't express it in words. We can't express it in sound. We need to pay attention what exactly the truth is, what exactly the reality is. For better or simple understanding, I can say reality changes. For suppose this hand is real, maybe tomorrow it will change, or the color it will change, but truth will never change. So to understand what that won't change, there is no language for that. We can't express it in words. So as we all know that some interesting facts about sound that we generally see, the majority of the cows that listen to music end up producing more milk than those who do not. This is an interesting fact, right? Because most of the cows that are listening to music, they are giving more milk. It is scientifically proven also, right? The flies cannot hear any kind of sound, not even their own buzzing. This is an interesting fact. Flies cannot hear their own sound, but the sound that is produced by flies, it's most noisy. Sound cannot travel through space since there are no molecules to travel through. Here on Earth, we have air molecules that vibrate in and around the ears. If you observe the marine animals, they use sound to obtain detailed information about their surroundings. They rely on sound to communicate, navigate, and feed. Marine animals such as dolphins or the sharks use sound to locate and identify the objects such as food, obstacles, and other whales. By emitting clicks or short pulses of sound and listening to the echo, dolphins can detect individual prey and navigate around objects underwater. That is echolation. Through the echolation, the whales or the sharks identify their prey, their food. So sound is some extent in reality, in sound is some extent useful. Sound there is some advantages of sound in reality. But when you come to the perception of truth, there is no need of sound. So have you ever thought like, what about a deaf person? Did you ever question yourself how this deaf person reacts to sounds? So in order to understand how language affects our thoughts and how this affects the way that deaf people think, we must first understand the underlying nature of human thought. Humans generally think in strings of words, images, or a combination of both. Some people think primarily in words, meaning that their thoughts are dominated by words and narrations. Other people think primarily in images, meaning that their thoughts are dominated by images and pictures. The primary method for deaf people is to process the language through a visual forms of communication. They are more likely to think in images. So as JK said, most of the time we try to understand life, or we try to understand everything. We try to understand silence. We try to understand the truth in terms of words and images, which is unreal. These images or the sounds, the words will push you into illusion. They are not real. They are not 100% true. But majority, we people always, even now, when I am speaking, we are converting the words into images. We are decoding the words, right? When I am speaking, of course, to some extent, for communication, it is must and should. We have to use these words and sounds to some extent. But is it necessary to the entire life? I say no. So I would like to conclude. I don't want to take more time from you people because time is precious. I know that. So I want to conclude. All 5 elements, water, air, fire, and sky, have their own sounds. And we have the sounds of pain, sounds of joy, sounds of mantras, sounds of language, words. Silence is just to be without sound, without thoughts. It creates absolute consciousness. Silence is not stillness. We need to be careful here. Silence is not stillness. Stillness is nothing but if you observe a crane or heron that is standing in water with one leg, or if you observe a tiger that is going to hunt, it pays stillness. In order to have the prey, it pays total stillness. But what is running in the mind? That is not silence. Silence is something new, something we can't explain it. We maintain silence to pay salutation or regards to dead. Why? Because silence is the language of soul. That's why we pay silence when somebody died. We pay silence. Why? Because that is the only language we can convey to the soul, not to the body. Each and every particle in this universe has its own vibration and reverberation. Birth has sound, death has silence. Birth is vibration. We all born by sound, right? We all born by crying. We all die by silence. Death is reverberation. Also, sound has a physical importance. We are using it in medicine and technology. Sound can be able to destroy, but silence can be able to develop. One interesting line here is sound can be conditioned, but silence cannot be conditioned. Sound is real. Sound is reality. Silence is truth. So I would like to conclude with a beautiful saying or poem by Khalil Gibran. Among the hills, when you sit in the cool shade of white poplars, sharing the peace and serenity of distant fields and meadows, then let your heart say in silence, God rests in reason. And when the storm comes and the mighty wind shakes the forest and thunder and lightning proclaim the majesty of the sky, then let your heart say in how God moves in passion. Thanks. Thank you, guys. Thank you for giving me this wonderful opportunity.
धन्यवाद हरिनाथ जी, साईराम और कृतिका, इन्होंने 3 भाषाओं के संगम में बहुत अच्छे तरह से एक्सप्लेन किया। और क्विकली कोई कुछ कहना चाह रहा हो, चंद्रकांत जी तो हमेशा हमें आशीर्वचन देते हैं। और
last but not least, I would like to thank my co-speakers Sairam Pate and Kritika ji. That was really great, and they had given better translation than me. I can say that. I was really impressed with the translation that they had done.
But that is the really wonderful thing, that
Perfect.
when it is in 3 languages, every speaker tries to do the best in their language. And of course, the main language speaker is the person who has created the subject. So it's a team. It's really a Trivedi Sangam. It's really a teamwork which creates this atmosphere. Thank you so much, all 3 of you. Shinde ji, boliye sir.
Thank you, Harnath ji. Really, what I can say, has explored the silence very scholarly. And you are giving appropriate quotes of H.P. Blavatsky, J. Krishnamurti, connecting with the science. Really, I must appreciate your approach of the way of exploration. I also appreciate Sairam and Kritika Goyal. They have been associated with the theosophical teachings, lectures, and they have been doing best from their point of view. Really, I enjoyed all these three, even if I don't understand Telugu, but he was speaking much in English also. And Kritika Goyal also said three halls, hall of ignorance, hall of learning, and hall of wisdom. So all this, if we connect, it gives us something which solves our problem. And that which solves our problem is nothing but silence. It makes us silence. So silence, as Harnath said, is a background. It is not an empty space. It is full of solutions. So in that sense, it's also not an empty space. And as he quoted, Krishnamurti said, thought creates sound. It also creates noise. So all these are noise, sound, chaos. They all come to finally to this silence, which is harmony. And silence, as it is rightly said, it is a background. And it is also explained the gap between two thoughts. So all this theory we know. How can we connect to the human mind, which is not silent? That is our problem. Practicality is this. And the human mind has 4 dimensions actually. That is dimension of intellect, emotions, dimension of ego. So human consciousness is vibrating in these 3 dimensions. It vibrates with different tones in ego consciousness, in intellect consciousness, and in emotional consciousness. So when we look at this, what is that 4th dimension, which is explained in yoga as the chit? So this 4th dimension is the mind stuff. It is a record keeper. As it is explained, it is the background. It is a record keeper and keeps all the 3 dimensions. And when chitta is actually a reflection of these 3. And the real silence is when this background becomes really empty, in the sense, really it gets integrated. So all these varieties of silence, that is the silence of mind, silence of intellect, silence of ego, when all these silences with their own uniqueness of vibrations, they get integrated, then whatever balance is produced, that is harmony. Harmony is the only law. Order its expression, and love is its perfume. This is what we are connecting, and we are towards the silence. And silence, to think of silence is always better. Krishnamurti said, silence purifies me, which indicates I am not pure, I am impure, because of, as it is explained by the Pancha Mahabhutas, they are having all these, their own vibrations within us. So we are not pure. And as Krishnamurti said, silence makes us pure. So let us be silent, observing the tree, the breeze passing through that tree, and how the leaves, they make their rustles, all this, observing. And in this observation, when there is integration of all these vibrations, perhaps we reach to that emptiness or silence. Because as Kritika Goyal said, drum should be empty from inside. So let us become our chitta. Chitta vritti nirodha. That is, it should become empty, then only we experience this silence. And we can't, I think, express it in words. Only thing, we become blissful, nothing more. Thank you. I tried to explain something, but they inspired these thoughts. This I appreciate, Harinath. You are the best to go deeper and deeper to that level. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Without your
Sir, I have
the meeting is never complete. हाँ हर्षवर्धन जी जी
हाँ जी, हाँ जी।
मैं सिर्फ शिंदे जी से ये कहना चाहता हूँ कि आपके शब्दों के बिना कोई भी सभा का एक कंक्लूजन नहीं आता है। तो बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद कि आपने आए। और हरिनाथ जी ने बहुत मेहनत की है, मतलब उन्होंने मुझे 11 विषय दिए हैं और मैं आपसे वादा करता हूँ कि 11 के 11 विषय हरिनाथ जी यहाँ रखेंगे। हर्षवर्धन जी बोलिए।
Yes. First of all, yes, Harinath ji, you want to say something? Yes.
When I had listened to Harshvardhan sir, now I remember the quote of JK: "To understand the immeasurable, the mind must be extraordinary, quite still."
Yes.
Right. Harinath ji, I must congratulate you along with Pate Sairam and Kritika. Really, you spoke well in Hindi and you spoke in Telugu. Really, certain words that I could understand, but I cannot explain. So, really, I was highly impressed by this subject. It's a wonderful subject. And this sound that is explained in such a way that wherever there is sound, the silence is required. To understand the particular sound, to understand the particular melody, there must be the silence of the mind. So I think this subject is very interesting. One of the English poets, in 2 lines, in couplet, he describes, heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. So I think whatever, if you want to listen to the unheard melodies, that will be our really the path of learning. And listening to the music, listening to the particular speeches, listening to the children, listening to the neighbors, listening to our fellow learners, everywhere, listening process is required. But then after listening, we have to ponder, we have to contemplate. And contemplating means it is the silence. I think that is the main thing.
Yes.
Now, one more question is there. Pataji, do you understand Hindi?
Yes.
हिंदी में मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि एक सवाल ये भी है कि शांति, जो साइलेंस जिसके चेहरे पर रहता है, जो कुछ भी नहीं बोलता है, वो दूसरों को तकलीफ देता है, उसका क्या मतलब? मैं आपसे पूछ रहा हूँ। जब भी चाहे कोई न बोले, आप सवाल करें और कोई न बोले, कुछ भी न बोले, तो एक प्रकार से साइलेंस कुछ डेंजर चीजें भी खड़ी करता है। जहाँ कोई सॉल्यूशन लाना हो, जहाँ बातें बतानी हो, तो वो भी एक चीज हमारे सामने एक रिलेशनशिप में आती है कि कोई कुछ ना बोले, बिल्कुल शांत रहे, तो वो क्या है कि उसके दिल में कुछ और है और बातें जो कहनी चाहिए वो नहीं कह रहे हैं।
What you are trying to say is, sir, that it is very difficult to read silence and understand silence.
Yes, exactly. So कभी-कभी silence becomes more dangerous sometimes. If you don't explain certain things, you remain silent and it becomes somewhat very difficult thing. ये मेरा एक अलग से कुछ उस पर मेरा ख्याल आया आपको सुनते कि जहाँ लोगों को बोलना चाहिए था, महाभारत की सभा में द्रौपदी जी को वो हार जाते हैं, जुगटू खेला जाता है, कोई कुछ नहीं बोलता है, साइलेंस प्रिवेल्स, दैट इज द मोस्ट डेंजरस सिचुएशन। तो हमें लगता है कि ऐसे भी साइलेंस को कुछ इस तरह से हमें देखना भी चाहिए कि ये कहाँ हमें बोलना चाहिए, यानी सोशली अगर हमें आगे बढ़ना है, कुछ डेवलपमेंट करना है, तो सही बात, अच्छे, वो बोलते हैं ना कि प्यारे से बोलो, अच्छी चीजें बोलो, योर वर्ड शुड बी वेरी लविंग। जब भी किसी से बात करो, प्यार से बात करो। तो ये भी एक आवाज है, प्यार मोहब्बत की आवाज है। और फिर एक उर्दू शायर ने कहा कि इस भरी सभा में जुबा बंदी क्यों है, यहाँ तो बात करने को तरसती है जुबा मेरी। तो जहां बात करना है वो जरूरी है। तो मुझे लगता है कि हमारे थियोसॉफिकल सोसाइटी में आपने जो भी रेफरेंसेस दिए वो बड़े ही गहरे हैं, साइलेंस और स्पीच के साथ साथ चलते हैं। और साथ में हमारे पास एक ऐसा भी नॉलेज है जिसमें सेल्फ डेवलपमेंट, कहीं आगे बढ़ना है, कुछ चीजें पाना है, तो हमें बोलना भी जरूरी है। तो ये
जी,
सब
जी।
बातें आती है। तो मुझे लगता है कि अगले कुछ और भी सब्जेक्ट्स हमारे तरल जी लेकर आएंगे और उसमें हम इस तरह से भी कुछ डिस्कशन पर जाएंगे। थैंक यू वेरी मच
जी, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। और उदय कुमार जी भी कुछ कहना चाहते हैं, और बाद में अगर सुषमा जी के आशीर्वचन मिल जाएं फिर हम समापन की ओर चलेंगे। हाँ उदय कुमार जी, संक्षिप्त में जो कहना चाहते हैं कहिए।
थैंक्स टू हरिनाथ और दोनों स्पीकर कृतिका गोयल और साईराम जी। जो मौन है वो ज्यादातर तो अपने अंतर का आवाज सुनने के लिए है, और जो लोग आध्यात्मिक प्रगति चाहते हैं उन लोग मौन में जाते हैं। हमारे गुजरात में पूज्य मोटा का मौन मंदिर नडियाद और सूरत में है, रंग अवधूत महाराज है उसका नारेश्वर में मौन मंदिर है। जो लोग स्पिरिचुअल एक्टिविटी में आगे बढ़ना चाहते हैं वो पूरे दिन मौन मंदिर में रहते हैं। तो स्पिरिचुअल एक्टिविटी के लिए जरूरी है। पंच महाभूत तत्व की उसने बड़ी अच्छी बात बताया कि हर एलिमेंट्स को अपना साउंड है। मैं एक बात कहूँ कि जो भगवान शब्द है, तो भगवान शब्द में 5 एलिमेंट्स है। भ मतलब भूमि, लैंड। ग मतलब गगन, आकाश, स्काई। व मतलब वायु, एयर। और वो प्लस आ करो तो आ मतलब आग, अग्नि, फायर। और न है वो नीर, पानी, मतलब वाटर। तो जो परमात्मा की जो रचना है, ये पंचमहाभूत तत्व सारे ईश्वर की रचना है। इसीलिए उसने कंक्लूजन में फाइनल बहुत ग्लोरियस सेंटेंस बोला कि साउंड इज रियलिटी एंड साइलेंस इज ट्रूथ। बहुत बहुत आभार, तीनों स्पीकरों का बहुत बहुत आभार और अभिनंदन।
थैंक यू उदय कुमार जी, और सभी को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।